Welcome to our special series 20 by 20. Now, as part of TV3's 20th anniversary, we're interviewing 20 most eminent Ghanaians. And today, my guest is one man who's a famous playwright. Now, he's helped revive the theater arts industry in this country. And as you can see on my background, the studio says it all. We're actually in a studio, and he needs no introduction. Uncle Whyte, thank you very much for joining us.
Well, thank you very much for having me. And TV3, Afishapa.
But we'll get to TV3, but I'm just looking at, your studio and everything. Is this where you do your rehearsals?
That's where we do that's where the magic happens.
What magic are you talking about?
What we put on stage, we cook it here.
You cook everything here?
We cook everything here.
And that's how come we can see clothes, at the back.
Yes, and the stage and everything, and the sound and the instruments and everything.
Why did you choose to do this?
It chose me. I didn't choose it.
How did it choose you?
I think it's one of the exciting things in life when something you didn't train for, you suddenly realize that your passion, you have the passion for it, and you have the opportunity to do it. And for me, that is what happened. I didn't even do literature in school.
Okay.
I read statistics at the university.
Statistics?
At the university, and wrote the exams of the Institute of Chartered Accountants. So my path was nowhere near this. But I got hooked when I had the exposure to be a part of a school play.
Okay. And
the rest is history.
Yes, but I'm a bit interested in that exposure. How did that define you into getting into all of this?
I think it showed me that I could love this, that I love this. It showed me that the career path I was pursuing, though it was safe, was not what would make me alive creatively.
Okay.
And I think also that Ghanaians will have to get to the point of deciding to work in the area of our talents instead of the area of our training.
Okay.
Many of us are working with our certificates. And then the God-given talents we've been given, we've put them aside. But life really happens when you're operating with what you've been blessed with. And I'm happy to be doing this.
I like that bit. Do you still miss, do you miss accounting?
Oh, I apply it here. I apply it in what I'm doing. So I walk into the National Theatre, I look at the people and I multiply. And at the end of it, I like to see the accounts, the bank statement, and it must reflect.
The bank statements must reflect.
It must reflect.
Because I've done the calculation. You look at the people and multiply.
Oh, yeah, multiply.
No one can joke with. No one can joke with the money and everything.
No. You can't get away with it. You can joke with it, but you can't get away with it.
Tell me, how was it growing up? Your childhood days. How was it like in Ghana?
Fun. Except that in those days, I didn't think it was fun because we didn't have anything to compare it with. Now I look back, and of course it was there. We had places to play.
Okay.
I get alarmed when I pass by schools in Accra and they have no playing fields. So we have all these children and they are not jumping around, they are not running around and things like that. But as such interest of where I was raised in Kumasi, we had a lot of space to run. It was fun walking to school. You eat breakfast at home, you come home during break to have something to eat, and then rush back.
Okay.
Now, if your father doesn't own a car, you can't go to school. Because your father or your mother must go and drop you, and the driver must come and pick you.
What's changed?
The days have changed. The times have changed. But we had a lot of room. There was a school within any neighborhood. My period was a time when Saito could hold its own against any international school.
Okay.
I went kaki, the kind where we go to school barefooted.
Okay.
And then go and raid sugarcane farms at the end of school. But even then, by the time we hit class 4, we could read and write. Very well.
Something you wouldn't get today. But just curious, so when was this period? Which year was that? I'm just curious.
1960.
1960.
I was born in 54.
Oh, okay.
So, and I didn't go to creche. I didn't go to nursery. So I started class 1 at age 6, and that is 1960. class 1 at South Entreso SDA Primary School. And it was fun. It was fun. It was also the period where you were the child of any elderly person. So for instance, if my mother traveled and I'm messing around, another woman could see me, come, who are you? Whose son are you?
Okay.
So I am Antiama's. Antiama Fantino a K line, and I will say, and you are doing this, and then she would beat you up. She would beat you. She would spank you, and said that when you go home, go and tell your mother that I, Antiefia, I saw you doing A, B, C, D, and I spanked you.
Did you tell your mother?
No, we'll go and we won't say it.
Exactly.
But at about 5:30 p.m., you will find Auntie Efia coming to the house. And then she comes and says, Auntie Amma, has Kobina come to give a report? So, no, what report? So, I met Kobina doing this and this and this. And so I spanked him.
Okay.
And my mother would thank this woman profusely for doing that. And then call me, and in the presence of the woman, give me some more beating.
Oh.
For the woman to feel affirmed that she's done the right thing.
There was enough discipline at the time.
Now, we are even telling teachers they can't beat the children. I fear for the next generation.
Why? Why do you fear for the next generation?
When we raise people who don't know what discipline is and what authority is, we are creating people who are a danger to themselves. Because they wouldn't know any limits.
How do we change that?
Well, maybe we're talking about it. It will lead other people to talk about it. It will not be just one intervention, but it must be, we must get to the point where those who know better can be honest with the assessment of the situation.
Okay.
You know, there are things that, you know, that sometimes you find, you get into a situation and you know that this person knows better and yet he's not speaking out. Those who know better, who know what proper upbringing meant, I think it is time we spoke out.
It's time we spoke about it, but speaking about, let's look at Ghana's governance over the last 20 years. What's your assessment of the country over the last 20 years?
I have a lot of hope for Ghana. I have a lot of hope for Ghana. There's a statement I make. I say that Ghana is a teenager among nations. We are 60 years, and some people say, oh, Ghana is 60 years. No, Ghana is 60 years as a nation. Compared with the age of nations, compared with China, we haven't been born. Do you understand me?
Yeah.
If you compare that with about 6,000 years of China, or 4,000 years of Japan, or how many years of England, you know, even U.S. is regarded as one of the youngest nations, and that's over 200 years. We are 60. We are a teenage nation. And so we evidence all the misbehavior of teenagers. We will outgrow it. I believe that. I believe that there would be a time when a lot of the things that you and I privately, in our private conversations, are disgusted about, we'll look back and realize that we'll move beyond that. And then it will become a joke. You know, we'll talk to people and say, you don't know what we've been through.
Okay. Yes,
but I have a lot of hope.
But while we're a teenage nation, I mean, looking at how we're going, are you convinced we can make it?
Yes, I am. Oh, I am. Absolutely, we will make it.
What do you think we need to do if we're to get to the levels of China, Singapore, Malaysia?
Patience. We've got to be patient. We've got to be patient with ourselves. We've got to be, because you see, sometimes in a rush to change things, you may create more dislocation. Certain things will come up naturally. Let me tell you a story if we have the time.
Go ahead.
When I was, again, you were asking me about my youthhood, and I told you we had a lot of room to play. So one vacation, my friends and I decided we were going to construct our own stadium.
Okay.
So we got this piece of land, we weeded it. We went and cut bamboos and used the bamboos for goalposts. We got some white paint to draw the lines and things like that. It looked very beautiful. Except that when I looked at it, I thought it was missing something. Because in those days, every stadium, every football park I had been to the area in front of the goalpost was always bare.
Okay.
Always bare. So I went to pick a hole, and I began to wait. Then one of my friends said, "Come on, what are you doing?" And I said, "Oh, haven't you seen every football park, the area before the goalpost is just, no, it will happen. Don't worry. It will come by." I said, "No, would it?" Say, yeah. You know, within 2 weeks, the area in the 6-yard box, both ends were bare.
Okay.
Ghana needs to learn that certain things will happen. Let's be patient. It will happen. We will get there.
What are those things that we need to be patient about?
Let's be patient with our educational system in raising our younger people. Let's not be too drastic in changing things. Let's be long-term. Let's have a long-term view in the things we are doing, so that, because now it looks like every government comes and thinks that I have 4 years. 4 years to make the impact, 4 years to reap. But it doesn't happen that way. You know, building a nation is a baton race. It's a relay race. You come to do something, you hand over to someone who takes it further. You can't run the whole race. That is not the way a relay race is meant to be. Unfortunately, we have not as yet been able to articulate a unified vision of, I would like to see the Ghanaian dream.
Okay.
I would like to see the Ghanaian dream, so that no matter what party comes into power, there are certain core values that you would like to promote. Okay. Education, good health, health delivery, housing, agriculture, food for the people, good infrastructure. Because I believe that if all that any government did is to improve the infrastructure, the creativity and the resourcefulness of Ghanaians will take care of the rest.
Okay.
You understand what I mean? It's not government's business to get us employment. Ghanaians will employ ourselves. Because Ghanaians are very creative. And Ghanaians are hardworking. Hardworking. Look at your team. Look at the hours you put in. These are not lazy people. Meanwhile, in addition to that, some of you are doing some other courses and things like that to add value to yourselves. The Ghanaian is not lazy. But when you present a people with a situation that they think is hopeless and they give up, that is when they then begin to do the wrong things.
Okay, but talking about Ghanaians would employ themselves. Now, there's a policy of trying to employ Ghanaians by way of going about one district, one factory. Are we being patient enough for that one?
Let me avoid answering that question, because that policy has not even been tried out, has it?
Well, it started with one at Tekumfi. We're told an additional 185.
How many minutes ago?
Start. How many minutes?
How many months ago?
That's 3 months ago.
All right. You remember what I said? Patience.
We have to be patient with that one.
Let's wait and see.
But
you see, it's fine. Every government should try something. Okay. It doesn't work. Let's be honest enough to move on.
Okay.
Then we try something else. It is not always that you get it right. Especially when you're out of government, when you are not in government and you're making promises, because you don't know what you are coming to meet. Running as an opposition is very different from being on the seat. And I wish the current government were, but let's be patient. Let's try it. Let them try it. If it doesn't work, you know, I was fortunate enough to work with a British retired soldier called Peter Barker. We're in the publishing business. And there was one day that I went to him with an idea for a publication. And he said, go ahead. I went ahead and it didn't work. I had been so excited about it. I told him, Peter, it's not working. He said, yeah. I knew it wouldn't work because we tried it 5 years ago.
Oh, okay.
I said, but Peter, why didn't you tell me? He said, I wanted you to find out. I wanted you to find it for yourself. Now that you found out, now go and find ways in which we can make it work.
Okay.
He made me, I think he impacted me a lot because he gave me the opportunity to try and fail and pick up. There's nothing in trying and failing, but what will be painful is when you try and you fail and you justify that your failure is success.
Okay.
That one will be painful.
Is that what we do here?
Well, are you a stranger?
I'm asking you, Uncle Whyte.
Well, yeah, you're in a very comfortable place to ask the questions. I'm also in a comfortable position to dodge the questions.
I take it at that. I mean, I won't repeat that question. Let's move on. And,
Thank you.
In moving on, what's your assessment of Ghana's media, particularly over the last 20 years, particularly TV3?
How old is the private media? We are from 1992.
Yeah.
We are very young. We are very young. I remember the early days, and your producer and I have a long history in one media house, so he will understand what I'm saying. In the early days when the media landscape became plural, as against the good old days when it was GBC.
Yeah.
Do you understand me? A lot of the media people were just excited that they can talk to a minister. Just that. Just the fact that they have a minister's number and they can call a minister or a minister could call them, they were so excited about it. That's some years ago. Now it's changing, Kakra. There are people who have ministers' numbers and the minister calls them and they are not as excited as the media of yesteryear was. So that will change. The other thing that I think will change is that we'll move from MPP said, NDC said, to holding the politician's leg to the fire.
Okay.
Right now, somebody in one party goes to make a press conference. We are in the media. We don't do any analysis. We go and look for an opposition member and ask him to react to what the other party has said. And he also reacts, and that becomes the news. When we do that, we are not doing our people any favors. We must be able to pick the statement that man made, go into the history of his own government, or when they were in power, and say that you said this. When you were in power, you said this. You said you were going to do this 5 years ago. You haven't done anything. Now you are not talking about it. Now you're talking about these new things. Why? If we did that, they would all raise their game.
Okay.
But right now, what is happening is that prime time, we offer them our platforms. And then this is what happens. NDC says MPP are thieves. Then MPP says, by you NDC people, you are thieves. Then say, yeah, okay, but who stole chicken? You have stolen a goat. Do you understand? Yeah. So you are a bigger thief because you stole a bigger animal. And then, okay, we may have stolen a goat, but it was a lame goat. You understand me? But you are, that's not how to build a nation. A media should do much better than that. But again, teenage nation. It will go.
Okay, but somebody will say, aren't we making excuses? Maybe we should go the way you're talking about it. Let's get it done.
It will come. It will come. It will come when we discover that, there were people in the media who were very partisan in the early days. Extremely. Today, I'm beginning to see a trend where somebody in the media has a partisan interest, but is able to conceal it. In the past, they wouldn't. Because he's beginning to realize that it doesn't matter which party is in power. Fela sang a song which I don't think your platform will allow me to say it. Different day.
You can sing it.
Different day, same SHIT.
Now I understand why you didn't want to sing it. I understand. Finally, your wishes for TV3 as we mark 20 years and as we move on.
Well, TV3 brought innovation into television. I grew up in the days of GBC. So TV3 was fascinating. TV3 was fascinating, the picture quality, the range of programming that TV3 brought to us in those days, quite fascinating. My wish for TV3 is that in the coming days, we'll be able to see a lot more quality local content. I can understand that that is not cheap, and our market is too small. To get a good feature on TV, homemade, just for TV3 may be a bit too expensive. But I think gradually, with some creative tweaking, we should be able to get there. But I wish you well. I'm looking at the quality of people in TV3 now, even the quality of the team that is handling this interview. I know half of them. These are top-notch professionals. And when a media platform has this quality, you can only be sure that they will go very far. And I am expecting great things in the next 200 years for TV3.
Uncle Whyte, thank you. Very
So
much.
that your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren must be able to come and work at TV3 and say that my grandfather worked here.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Uncle Whyte. And that's all from us today on 20 by 20 with me, Winston Amwa. Thank you very much for joining us on behalf of the team. Bye for now.